Well, I'm excited looking around and seeing these beautiful faces from our community. Some people I don't know very well, or I don't know at all, and some people I haven't seen in a while. So I'm just taking a moment to take that in and welcome you. My name is Michelle Yasuda, and I am the program director for the Foundation for Conscious Living's Big Leap Home online programs. And these programs support individuals, organizations, and communities in generating agency, connection, and creativity on our shared planet. And I love that intention. And I love that this gathering that you're at here, our Big Leap Bridge calls, are a place where we're playing with Hendricks practices and discovering and learning together. So I really welcome you, and I'm excited that we have Noé here tonight, who I'm going to turn the call over to in a couple of minutes to learn about such an important topic and how we can use Hendricks tools to support us. Let's see. So one thing I wanted to let everyone know, if you don't already know this, is that we have a network. It's called the Big Leap Home Network, and it is a no cost, ad-free place where you can hear about the latest Hendricks classes, and we have practices that we post, I think, more than once a week, beautiful practices that you can see and play with. And you'll also be able to hear from and communicate with Katie Hendricks and our coaching community and people who've graduated from our leadership and transformation program. So there's a space where you can learn about Hendricks World and join us. So I'm going to put the link in the chat once I'm complete and invite you to join us there. And so lastly, if you have questions during the call and they're pressing, go ahead and put them in the chat, put 3 question marks in front of your questions so that I find it easily. And then there'll be a time and space for questions, and Noé will let us know. And you can either raise your hand and read your own question, or I am happy to do that. So you can let me know in the chat if you'd rather me read your question for you. So I want to take a moment here now before I turn the call over to Noé. And I haven't gotten to meet you in person, but I've interacted with you through email and through one of our classes that I know that we're taking together. And I want to appreciate you, Noé, for what I notice is a generous and loving spirit that I really appreciate in you. And I'm excited for tonight and to hear what you have to offer everyone. And so I'm going to turn the call over to you.
Thanks, Michelle. I would say the same about you. A very generous spirit. Yeah, thanks everybody for coming to this particular topic, which could be a really scary topic to dive into and put some attention on. A little bit about me. I'm Noé. I live in Seattle, and I've been doing Hendricks work. I did their 2-year program a while ago. I think I've been doing it for maybe like 6 or so years, maybe 7 years, since I first came into contact. My first read Conscious Living was my first Hendricks book. And I'm also a yoga teacher. I've been practicing meditation for about 11 years now. And that's what brought me to wanting to come and do a workshop around this topic. The way that I'm going to approach tonight is as an experiment, actually, as we'll do a lot of little experiments, kind of inspired by Hakomi therapy, if anybody's familiar, where you could take little experiments as little ways to heal through play and kind of trying something new. So we're going to get to do some of that. But first, I just want to take a little bit of time here to ground together and kind of all come into this space together. So I want to invite you, if you feel comfortable and your camera's off, to turn it on and kind of come in and meet with everybody. Totally fine if you want to turn your camera off now or at any point. I know that this topic, panic attacks, can be a pretty difficult one to talk about, to share about, to be seen in, but I want to hold that this could be a brave space for us to show up in. So we're going to start with just a few breaths together. So if you're holding something, put it down. If you haven't really wiggled today, get a little bit of a kind of a wiggle, a move, a scrunch. And yeah, Monday can be sometimes the stiff day. And then you can either just keep your eyes open and kind of turn your attention inward, or close your eyes and bring your attention in. I just want to invite a few breaths in with yourself. So before we come outward, coming inward, if it feels good, you can connect hands onto your body. If you just want to have them by your sides, that's fine. And we'll just do 3 deep breaths together. So wherever you are, big inhale, stretching at the top, and then let it all out. Again, big inhale. And let it all out. Yeah, one more. And if you can release sound in your space, I invite you to let the sound go through. Wonderful, thank you. So you can continue to move, breathe, stand, sit, lie down, however you like to be here tonight. Take care of yourself and your body. What I want to start with, so I'll give you a little bit of the framework of what we're going to do tonight so you can get on board. So I'm just going to do a little bit of like, what are we talking about with panic attacks? Why did I want to come and do a workshop on this with the Hendricks tools? Then we're going to go right into some little experiments and some little practicing moments where we get to try on different somatic exercises from Gay and Kathlyn Hendricks. And then we'll see what happens. So it's going to be kind of an experiment. So I'm really glad that y'all are here. Actually, just this morning, I went to the gym and ran into somebody who in the past I've experienced panic attacks around. And I haven't seen this person in over a year. And it felt like, of course, today when I do a workshop on panic attacks would be that day. And I'll talk a little bit more about that, but it was a beautiful moment where I felt okay being there, and eventually they left and it was fine. So yeah, it was a really interesting synchronicity that made me feel a little more connected to the topic again. It's been a little while since I had a panic attack. So it felt like, okay, something has come full cycle. So what am I talking about with panic attacks? There are definitely different kinds of panic attacks. Some of them are physical based, where it's not necessarily connected to something psychological or emotional. I don't have very much experience with that kind of panic attack. So I want to be really clear about what I have experience with and knowledge of. What I have more experience with is more emotionally triggered panic attacks. So I kind of wanted to poll the group. If you've had a panic attack or you know what that kind of experience is like, or you've had extreme anxiety, if you feel comfortable, raise a hand. Okay, and if you know somebody else who's had some kind of panic attack or extreme anxiety, raise a hand. Okay, awesome. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it can be a pretty darn world-rocking experience, as pretty much all of you know. It can feel like you're gonna die. It can feel like you have to do something to solve that panic attack, whatever that thing is. So I think both understanding it for ourselves can be really helpful and healing, but also it gives us the ability to start noticing when other people are having that experience. And you've probably already started to, if you've had that experience yourself, you've already probably been able to notice, that the way that person is responding feels familiar. So everything we do today will be something that you could bring in for yourself, or you could bring in with somebody else. Okay, I have all these notes here of what to talk about. There's a few things that I want to talk about before we dive into practicing some somatic exercises. One of them is noticing that when I started having panic attacks, I tried a whole bunch of things that really didn't work because I come from a lot of experience of working with feelings. So there was a period where I just got off of a 5-day meditation retreat, and I had really gone in deep, was feeling really spacious and very content. And then right on that last day, I had a panic attack. And I thought, oh, great. Well, I've been doing all this meditation. I'm just going to sit with it and let it calm down. It did the opposite. I sat with it, and it was like in the space, it was like a roaring dragon, and it escalated very quickly. And I ended up later talking to a therapist who used to be in the same abbey as Pema Chodron, who said, oh, no, we don't have people sit with that. We have them dig holes or do something physical. So one thing I realized is there are plenty of healing modalities that aren't really effective for panic attacks because it's different from something like sadness or a really low level of fear, or kind of a subtle level of fear, in that just sitting and being with it doesn't always help and can sometimes make it worse. So that's why I think it's so important to start to experiment and try different things and find what really works, because there are lots of things that don't work. And there's also a giant societal pressure to not be weird. And when you're having a panic attack, you don't really have a choice about that. And to not be needy. Also, if you're having a panic attack, you don't have a choice about that. Like there is a lot of safety need happening very suddenly. So yeah, that's where I'm coming from with all this. I don't believe that we can just suddenly stop and wipe them out. And sometimes medication is helpful, I've realized, and sometimes it's not. But I would never tell anybody like to just do breathing or something like that. Sometimes you just need the experience to end in order to regain some sense of sanity. So we're talking about a pretty intense level of experience here. And I just want to be clear about that. And also that I'm not a therapist. I'm a trained coach through the Hendricks Institute, but I'm not a therapist. And so everything that I'm saying is coming from the lens of my experience with somatic tools, and wanting this to be an experiment experience for all of you. Yeah. Okay, great. Thanks for listening to that. Try not to talk too much and make it more experiential, but I feel like some of those preface things are important. Okay, so what I would love to have us do is play with some of the different Hendricks practices. And there's a lot going on. There's moving, breathing, some are related to touch, play, connecting, loving, journaling. There's various art experiments and expressions, dance. Who has some experience with Gay and Kathlyn Hendricks or any of their workshops or work? Okay, yeah, and who has never heard of them or doesn't know what I'm talking about? Okay, great. There are a couple of therapists. Katie was a dance movement therapist, Gay is a psychotherapist, and they brought forward a lot of research and tools around somatic therapy practices. So there's a lot to explore. Today we're gonna play with presencing, breathing, sounding, and grounding. So 4 different ways to approach. If you're having a panic attack or somebody else is, one of these or a few of these may be really helpful, and I'll explain. Also, somebody's video is following them around their house. I just find that amazing. Okay. I've never seen that before. Okay, technology. All right, so like I said at the beginning, I was inspired by Hakomi's little experiments. And the first thing that I want to do is have us do a practice of what it's like to hold space for a panic attack. We're going to practice it with another person, but the same thing is actually true with ourselves, right? Because when we're experiencing that, it can often be really overwhelming and we aren't able to care for ourselves, or maybe suddenly we become able to sort of back and forth. It's like, I'm 3 years old, I'm 33 years old, I'm however old you are, right? You're kind of back and forth. And then there may be a period where, okay, now I can actually hold on to the little one who's freaking out. And there could be a whole, back and forth experience with that. And with somebody else who's having panic attacks, there are so many ways to easily misunderstand what's happening. And I was really the worst at that before I started having my own panic attacks. I really just didn't understand the level of experience that was being had. And it took me a while to realize that it's like being with a very young child or a really scared animal, that there are certain things that I want us to practice. So what we're going to start with is we're going to have little breakout groups in a moment. And okay, we got plenty of time, of 3 people. And one person will be sharing something that feels scary. Now you get to decide how scary that is. Like, it could be like, I saw a spider today, really don't like spiders. It could be sharing something bigger. So whatever you feel comfortable with, let that be what you share. And I would encourage you to push your edge with the understanding that these may be people who you've never met before. Then, as we're holding space, I want us to practice getting into the mode of being there for a child or a scared animal. So that's being slow, being predictable, being kind, being validating. There may be other qualities of being, but take a moment right now and just notice, with those 4 things, being slow, what does that feel like if you're to kind of go in and try to create that experience in your whole body? Being slow, predictable, kind, validating. What does it feel like? And when we're holding that space, we want to validate the experience that's happening, whatever the reason is, right? Whether it's because somebody just had a breakup and there's some attachment trauma that was triggered, or whether there was some physical abuse at any point in the past, or there could be so many reasons, and it could be relatable or not relatable, and still slow, predictable, kind, validating. And this we won't get to practice, but it's a thing that, because I don't want people to actively bring up panic attacks today. But with holding space, sometimes it's helpful to ask questions, but what I've noticed is there are questions that are helpful and there are questions that are distracting or kind of help some spiraling. So what I like to do is make simple offers rather than asking complex questions. Like, a complex question would be, what do you need right now? And if my mind is spinning at 1,000 miles an hour and my body is shaking, I do not know what I need right now. And it's very hard to figure that out. But a simple offer question might be, would you like a blanket? Or would you like to lie down? Or would you like touch? It's kind of like making a simple offer, a yes or no kind of an experience. So that's the kind of space that I want to hold. So we're going to start by breaking out into little groups, and we're going to just start with sharing, just sharing something scary. And then as you're witnessing, so it'll be 3 people in the group, as you're witnessing, trying to create that feeling of slow, kind, predictable, validating in your body, right? In each breakout group, or well, each activity, they're not all going to be breakout groups, but each activity will sort of grow in a level of somatic depth. So that's why I'm starting out with verbal, which is what we're all sort of more used to doing that. Yeah, if you don't want to be in a breakout group, yeah, thanks for saying that. Yeah, you do not have to be in a breakout group. You could just hang out here and return for the big group. Okay, great. So if you do want to be in a breakout group, Michelle, how do we do this?
Yeah, hi. So if you don't want to be in a breakout, I'm just going to put you in a room by yourself. So you can just skip going in the room, or you can go in the room by yourself while you're waiting, and then you'll be brought back to the main room. So you can stay in the main room or go in a room by yourself.
Okay, great.
All right. You can always just skip the invitation if you get one.
Okay. Yeah, so we'll be in a group, and each person will have about a minute to share something scary that happened. And again, at any level, or it could even just be, hey, I felt anxiety today, or I felt fear today. And then witnessing. So to give an example of this, I'll share something scary for all of you, and I would invite you to take that witnessing place of slow, predictable, caring, kind, right? That's the invitation. So I'll share a little more about this experience of running into a person at the gym where I used to experience panic attacks with this person. I walked in the gym and I was having a slow day. I woke up a little bit late, so I was kind of a little off. And then I looked up and saw this person. And that moment was like, oh shit. And I almost just turned around and left right there. But then I was like, well, I went all the way to the gym, and then I remembered my breath. And I was like, okay, here I am. And then I remembered that doing cardio exercise is a really good thing to do with panic attacks. And I haven't had one in a while. And I remembered, okay, that was then, this is now. So I had all of these practices that I've done in the last few years since that incident occurred. And I was able to ground myself, go over to a place in the gym that they weren't there, and do my exercise. Yeah, so that was my scary thing. So that's the invitation, and that may be more scary than you'd like to share. Again, whatever you want. But we're practicing witnessing here. We're practicing somatically holding that space, trying to create that container for somebody before we ever interact with them. Okay, sound good? So once you get into the group, one person go first, or introduce yourselves, and then pick one person, go first, and then just go around about a minute each. And then Michelle's gonna call everyone back into the group, and we'll just kind of debrief, like, how was that?
All right, so we're going to do 4 minutes total, like a minute to gather and then 3 minutes each.
Perfect.
All right, that sounds great. And if you have any problem in your room, there's a button for you to press and I can come in and support you. So just let me know. All right, here we go.
Okay. So how was that? Now, I want to ask about the experience of witnessing and how it was in your body. Does anybody want to share what that was like to witness without sharing any details of, maybe I should have said this at the beginning, but as far as privacy goes, standard privacy, please don't share anything that anybody's told you. What was it like to witness? And how do we do it? Do we raise, you can raise your hand.
Yeah, that'd be great. If you could raise your electronic hand, that'd be great. Or you can just wave.
That's okay. If nobody is ready yet to share, that's totally fine too. Okay. If you do, you can always, see, my energy became bigger and wider and low to the ground. Yeah. Okay. I got one. Yeah. Channel or Chanel?
It's Channel.
Channel. Yeah. Go ahead.
Channel, yeah. I think what occurred for me is kind of what a privilege it is to witness and present someone when they are sharing something that's very vulnerable.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah, what a privilege it is. Beautifully said.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Yeah, Michaela.
Whoops, you disappeared because your hand went down. Let me find you.
Oh, here I am.
There you are.
It felt really intimate. It felt like a part of me that I keep hidden, like a fearful part of me was connecting to somebody else's fear. And it made me feel more connected to like the real part of a person.
Yeah, more connected, intimate. Yeah, just in the witnessing. Thank you. Okay, so, Lisa, did you want to share as well?
I felt my breath deepened and it felt literally like holding space. Yeah.
Beautiful. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Different than when I held my breath as I was speaking.
Yeah. Yeah, there's something about holding space or offering space that is a really beautiful practice. And I know in attachment therapy work, there's a difference between taking space, like I'm going to take space, and working with your partner to have whichever partner needs space to have the other one create space for them, which does still have a holding, but maybe it's like holding in a little bit of a wider pasture. So yeah, that's beautifully said as well. Thank you. Alexis, yeah. Where are you? There you are.
Over, let's see, okay. I think what came up for me is a lot of revelation about how creating space isn't as scary as it seems. I'm always super fearful to provide it to others because of others like abusing it and emotional dumping. But when you have the boundaries and get clear communication about it, it feels more more helpful for me than from even me sharing. Like I feel like I'm helping in a way that I am typically fearful of. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, it can help you feel more grounded and comfortable. Yeah, thanks. Also, it's nice to see you. It's been a long time. Okay. Well, thanks. We'll have more chances to share. Now we're going to do, as the big group, we're going to do a breathing practice. And this is something that I learned years ago with Katie Hendricks called the Yes Breath. And some of you may have done it as well. But recently I did a biofeedback series. Has anybody done biofeedback before? Or heard of it even? Yeah, biofeedback is, it's kind of like science meets mindfulness. And so it's usually done in like an 8-week series where you are connected to a machine through like a blood pulse sensor, and then a band around your rib cage. So it's measuring your heartbeat and your breath. And you can see on a graph when your heart rate is coherent, which means that your breath and your heart rate are moving at similar speeds. And it's more technical than I remember, but it's really powerful to see the, like right on a screen, the change that can happen in my heartbeat when I've been breathing regularly. So the simplest version of this is a 5-count inhale and a 5-count exhale Now, when I first started having panic attacks, I would have the thought. So, my thoughts were, like 100 thoughts a second. And I'm like, okay, breathing, right? I got to do my breathing. Okay, that didn't work. What else do I have? And that it actually takes some time. So if you're also a speedy breather, especially when you're feeling anxiety or panic, at least 2 minutes. So part of the homework for this biofeedback was we had to do at least 5 minutes. Actually, at first it was 10 minutes a day of practicing this regulating breathing. And then I kept going for 5 minutes after, and I will do at least 2 minutes a day. So what I want to do is, as a group, see if you can just notice your body state right now. And notice if there's any place in your body that feels uncomfortable. Notice if there's any positive, delightful feelings. Just kind of a state snapshot. And then we're going to do 2 minutes of breathing. And then we're going to do another snapshot just to notice what's happened. And something that actually I wrote down that I forgot to say is, when we're holding the space, part of the mission there of like, why would we be there with somebody who's going through a panic attack, is to help them return to themselves. Right. And another way to say that would be to help them return to their adult self, maybe, or to their safe body. So there's a returning. When we're doing practices to work ourselves through it, I think the simplest way to say why are we doing these activities is to change our state, right? Because our state is like rapid and going wild, and we're trying to do something different, almost like anything different, which is why there's so many different ways we can work with it. Okay, so one way is breathing here. So we're going to do this together. I've got a timer here. And we're going to do 2 minutes. I'll guide through the first few rounds. And it's just going to be very simple. I'm just going to count to 5 and then count to 5 slowly. And then you can take it at your own pace after that, but I'll give us a little bandwidth, and I invite you to stay with it for the whole 2 minutes. And if it feels stressful at some point, you can let it go and then come back, but try to stay with that rhythm for 2 whole minutes without stopping. Yeah. What if the panic is taking away your breath? Yeah, that's a great question. And we'll do some other practices that don't have anything to do with breathing for those times, because that's very real. Yeah. And so we'll get into that after we do this. Okay, so 2 minutes of breathing. Eyes could be open, closed, whatever is comfortable for you. I'm going to pop on my timer here. And wherever you are, exhale everything out. And we'll inhale for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhale 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Inhale 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhale 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Keep going like that. 5 in, 5 out. Got about 1.5 minutes left. As you're breathing, keep going. As you're breathing, if it feels good, you can allow a little movement in your spine. Not necessary, not required, but you can. About 30 more seconds. Good. And then let that go. And then take a snapshot of your state right now. Notice, what are you aware of? What's happening in your body? As I scan through, I notice my heartbeat is much louder than it was. And my thoughts actually feel a little bit slower. It's hard to describe what that's like, but there's a little bit of less speed. And yeah, after that, anybody want to share what you noticed comparing those snapshots? Relaxed, yeah. Pulsing in my hands and feet, more presence, yeah. Yeah, that's 2 minutes. And smoother feeling inside, yeah. Yeah, I recommend, if possible, increments of 5 minutes, especially if you are in the middle of something. And if you have somebody there who can help hold you to it and breathe with you, that's a really beautiful thing to do. You can have your hands on your body. You can have, if you're lying down and touch feels good. Touch usually feels good for me. If I'm feeling a lot of anxiety, having somebody put their hands on my body as I'm breathing could be really powerful. Great, yeah, you could include breath holds. Yeah. Okay, there's one more thing I wanted to say about breathing. Oh yeah, one thing I asked the doctor who I was doing biofeedback with was, what if feelings come through? Like, what if, sometimes with panic attacks, as things slow down for me, I'll notice then all of the grief comes through, or whatever's sort of underneath it starts to come through. And he was like, yeah, that's part of the point. Like, it's about awareness. So if you're breathing for 3 minutes and you got 2 minutes left and you set a timer and you really want to stick to it, and then you start feeling like you're just going to start sobbing, let it come. Like, I tend to hold myself pretty fiercely to things. So it's okay to let the stuff come through. That's part of the point. So great, that's breathing. Well, okay, we're flying through time here. So we've got our little sampler of things to use for panic. The next one I want to do is a little more playful, and sometimes it's just not available to experience any level of play, but sometimes it's a really welcome relief to obsessive thinking. So this one is a sounding practice, and we're going to do it with mute on, but it's going to be kind of a silly exercise that I'm going to ask you to do. We're going to do groups of 3 again. We're going to do animal sounds. Very simple. One person gets to pick the animal. And then the invitation is for you to make sense. So you can stay on mute, make sounds of that animal that match your mood. So it's like you're taking the animal, and if you're feeling like 1,000 pounds sinking into the ground, and the person says elephant, then your elephant is going to be kind of like, right? You could be the saddest, heaviest elephant, and that's beautiful. So it's taking some amount of play, even if it's a little tiny amount of play, and bringing that into the experience. It's like making a tiny little change to what's happening. And that can be that can start to cascade out into, oh, then I can breathe again, right? So somebody asked, what if you can't breathe, right? Sometimes there's something that needs to happen before then to interrupt whatever is looping. So groups of 3, we'll do maybe same thing, about a minute each, on where, how do we count a minute?
So we want to do about a minute each. And I heard that some people didn't get to finish before, so maybe we'll do 5 minutes this time. So you'll have 5 minutes, and then you can split up that time whatever way works well for your group. Some groups end up with 2 or so that can happen. Does that sound okay?
Yeah, sounds good to me. And yeah, so yeah, I want to just be real clear with this, so you know exactly what you're doing. So you pick one person, they'll say an animal, like could be a mouse, and then everybody can be on mute. You can also not be on mute if you feel like really gung-ho about it. And you're going to be a mouse for about a minute until then the next person, you'll all come back after your minute of being a mouse, and then the next person will go on and say a different animal. And this can be really helpful if you're holding space for somebody who's having a panic attack. Like if you suggest, hey, would you like to make tiny animal sounds together? And they say yes. You have to lead the way for them. You have to look silly for your friend or your loved one, or you have to create just that little bit of invitation that they might need. Yeah, so that's part of why we're practicing being a little bit uncomfortable, or a little goofy, or a little silly. Even if it's just a little bit, that can help. Who makes the sounds? Everybody. Yeah, so if I say, elephant, then I'm going to be an elephant, but try to match it to your mood, because one thing is we're not trying to make it bad or invalidate it or take away the experience. We're just trying to encourage movement or some kind of flow, because that's throughout a regular day what happens. We go through various emotions throughout the day, and they come and they go, and we have enough awareness to be able to flow with them, and then sometimes we get stuck in one, and that's what we're trying to bring it back into the flow and let it kind of dissolve slowly. So we're not trying to disrupt whatever you're experiencing, but just adding a little bit, maybe changing a tiny piece, letting some movement happen. Cool. I've talked enough. Let's do it. Thanks for being brave here. Okay. How was that? Got a couple minutes, truly a couple minutes to share. What did it feel like to make animal sounds, to be invited to make a certain animal sound?
Oh my gosh, I loved it.
Yeah.
I want to know more of these kinds of things. Yeah, the playfulness and a way to express emotion differently. But in which all of my animals had a similar tone, which helped me really get in touch with what was really going on inside, and the playful element is awesome.
Oh, great. I'm so glad. Yeah, for play stuff also, I know that Zaxi K and Christina, who are on the call here, both do a lot of work around play. So connect with them. And I think Vi also, lots of play. Probably everybody on this call, but yeah, for sure. Thank you, Sharon. Yeah, Christina. Oh, hang on. Let me ask you to unmute here. Wait, Christina, we need you to unmute. Yes.
It really brought my energy level up to play, and I especially appreciated being asked to be dog, because there's so many aspects of dog that are fun.
Oh, great. Yeah, I'm glad. Yeah, what was people's favorite animal to be?
Well, I liked being the monkey.
The monkey, yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, you get pretty wild with that one.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, any other shares about how that was? What did you notice about your state? Right, I've already heard like, ooh, that was fun, joy. That's a change, yeah? Yeah, like noticing the changed state. And we did it for 3 minutes, which is sort of like, 2 minutes, 3, like as long as it's more than 2 minutes, usually some kind of change is possible. Yeah, go ahead. Chanel.
Yeah, we ended up just after the first animal, sort of one in our group, just sort of uncontrollable laughter, and then that was infectious. And before I knew it, I was joining, and it was a wonderful feeling. And that was after 1 minute. So
Oh wow, that's
yeah.
great. Yeah, infectious laughter.
I guess I experienced sort of the same thing. You know, we kept ourselves unmuted, and it was just hilarious. You know, I was really enjoying the energies of the other two women in the group, and it was fun. It was really fun. I could really tell what their states were, and mine too.
Mm. Awesome. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, and everyone coming into this workshop is probably a little bit primed in a place to experiment and play. And sometimes it's that change in state is like barely visible or not visible, but those little experiments can still help. Yeah. So we're going to do one last, it's going to be another 2-minute experiment. We're going to do it all together as a big group. And it's going to be, so we did breathing, but we did witnessing, we did breathing, we did sounding, and now we're going to do a kind of grounding movement. It's going to be sort of, who's done fear melters before? Familiar with what that means? Okay, a handful, half or more. Fear melters is a great way to do it. So fear melters is basically a set of like body postures and activities that you can do for different kinds of fear: fight, flight, freeze, and faint. We like literally don't have enough time to even explain what those all are. So what I'm going to invite is 2 minutes of movement where you're changing the kind of movement every 30 seconds or so. So anytime you sort of notice that you're doing a similar movement, like maybe you start out by wanting to shake and you shake for a while, and then you feel a few breaths come through, and then you think, okay, now I want to like, really stomp. Yeah. So anywhere, you could be sitting, you could be standing, however you like. 2 minutes. I put on 2 minutes here. Ready, set, go. 2 minutes of moving in some way. Try to keep the movement going. Yeah. I'll stay unmuted. So yeah. Let yourself follow your impulses. Again, it's not like you have to radically change your mood, but let yourself move with your mood. Yeah, and if you feel like you're doing the same thing and you want inspiration, you can look at the screen and you can see all kinds of different ways to move. So you can use each other as well. And you can also make sound as well. And you can move really slowly or really fast. All right, we've got about 30 seconds left. All right, and come on in for landing. Notice your state. Feel my heartbeats moving faster. Feel heat, even a little bit of sweat. And I'm aware that we have a 1 minute. Michelle, is it okay if we go a few minutes over, or if I give the option for folks to stay for a few minutes?
Yeah, so how about that? So why don't we just officially wrap up, and then anyone who wants to stay on the call, if you have questions for Noé, you want to be able to complete this part, and you have time to stay around, then I invite you to stick around. But I want to thank everybody for being willing to be here. And Noé, thank you so much for this amazing call. I can feel in my body what a shift that can happen so quickly. So appreciating that. And so I'll say farewell to anybody who needs to leave the call, and let's just take a few more minutes to wrap things up. Noé.
Thank you. Yes, if you have to go, thank you and farewell. And if you want to stick around, it'll just be for about 3 or 4 minutes.